Fenda sheje krej kishil. Shiro wanye papchalega shejingel throjilath misa. Valda kiswa misa thol.
Why we all should have hated Daenerys a long time ago. Obviously, what I have to say here isn't going to be in defense of Dany, and it certainly isn't going to be me saying, "See, I told you from the very beginning she was a whack job." It took me too long as well, but I certainly stopped rooting for her well before Season 8. And let me start off by saying, I was on her side when her brother was being a creep. I was on her side when he sold her off to Khal Drogo. I was on her side when she was raped on the show, and on her side when she wasn't raped in the books. I was even on her side when she was willing to go to the lengths of having Mirri Maz Duur perform blood magic ritual to heal Drogo, even if she was too stupid to realize it was the witch who made him sick in the first place. I rooted for her in Meereen, even though I shouldn't have. I cheered for her when she crucified the Masters, only showing me a darker side of myself. So you're wondering, when did I stop rooting for Dany? And when should I have stopped rooting for Dany? We'll start with the former. Okay, before you argue that this man committed a crime, I don't disagree with you. He was a murderer. He murdered a prisoner who had committed murder, a prisoner who was awaiting a fair trial. But here, he loses his head at the command of the Queen without a fair trial. And anything to which he admitted, he did so without knowing his Meereen rights. To state my case, I'd like to go over this conversation she had with the victim, where it should not only be obvious that this man be placed in a cell rather than executed, but to highlight several points where Daenerys already shows her madness.
Ashe, Misa. Evilskaya yazdang mulilash. Iwi wondo sheli shesh pafilma. Achatang yasharua. Shayalachet.
So right away we can gather that despite this man's terrible choice, he believes that what he was doing was the right thing in service to his queen and wanted to make retribution in tribute to her for being the one who set he and his people free. Daenerys is not wrong here. A good, solid, and quick rebuke of the incorrect actions that the man had committed. However, the crucified masters might argue that this man had only followed the example already set by his queen. She says that there are no more slaves, and while the slaves may have been recently freed, no time has passed since everything they have ever known has been completely uprooted. From their culture to learning how to fend for oneself, etc. There is a need for time for the recently freed people to learn how to make adjustments in their own lives. Some even chose to remain slaves, even if it be called something like a servant. She expects them to just understand freedom the day they received it. That, children, is called a rhetorical question. His point is solid, at least to me, and I would think most people, creating more than enough reason for him to stand a fair trial. Whether he be imprisoned during such time being arranged or released on his own recognizance is entirely up to her grace, the Queen. But under her very own way of rule, as she claims it, this man is entitled to a trial. He continues his argument well here.
Eshkatogo nodo majidashwayel, ni ekel kurong ni azanjayamel. Odavang shileri ni eches ni akiveshka. Kwayang yashkishka cheta shefiwa treshoje.
I would say that was a rather eloquent way of reminding her that she armed the people to take on the task of killing the very people she is now upset were killed, since he was a prisoner and this man had been armed by the very queen before which he now kneels. This seems to me to be a case requiring court-martial, as at this point he represents a soldier in her army.
Niakiv mulilash, eshkaos willy willosh. Rorushish patresh espayas dangyel tujeva wapa filma. Kiotastol.
His heartfelt words about his father shows the true lack of empathy in Daenerys, including, once again, the lack of ability to see that this freedom she has brought is but a completely new idea to the very people who now call her Misa.
Guragon jazdano, glaison aochani sostaur. Ziri aixia, Vitriris.
Shishilolshka ye fitril.
Vitris. Siriandros.
On the first hand, she's absolutely right, but that's why he should be tried. On the second point, it seems rather contradictory and hypocritical for her to not see how her crucifying the masters without a trial was no different. The pain in his eyes, the anger in hers. And yet, even now, I still didn't hate the Dragon Queen. During the long, drawn-out time before the actual execution, I was still screaming at the TV for mercy just like her people were. I didn't want to believe she would actually go through with it. It was about halfway through this wait that I realized she isn't going to show him mercy. Then, everything she had previously done had come flooding back. She's the Mad Queen. Maybe not as mad as her father, not just yet, but the signs are there. They've been there for a long time, staring us in the face, and we ignored them. At least I did, right up until this point, where I knew I would never stand on the side of Daenerys Stormborn, Mad Queen. Alright, so that's when I started to hate her. But when should I have started? Since this was the moment for me, tell us in the comments at what point you knew she was mad and stopped rooting for her. Or tell us when you realized she was mad but kept rooting for her anyway. Was it before me or something later, like when she burned the Tarleys alive? Or sounded like a broken record? Bend the knee, bend the knee, bend the knee, bend the knee. But before we blame this one entirely on Dan and Dave, you didn't think I'd make a video without having to bring them into it. I'm going to use examples from Season 5 and earlier to show they were still working off of source material and the guidance of George R.R. Martin. These are in no particular order. I know I've already mentioned the Masters, but I have to remind you that this was also against the advice of Sir Barristan Selmy. His wise counsel of mercy was never even taken into consideration. Another example of her cruelty can be found in the way she dealt with the betrayal of her handmaiden and Xana's own Daxos. By, instead of giving them quick, clean deaths, she locked them inside of a vault to either starve or run out of oxygen, whichever came first. Try also not to forget how much all of us were rooting for her while she showed us her inner sadist at the murder of her brother. While her brother's death itself may have been warranted, it wasn't just her pleasure in it that showed her madness. Her words gave us a glimpse of Targaryen madness as she proclaimed,
"He was no dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon."
The examples go on and on. She burned Mirri Maz Duur without a trial. She burned Dothraki lords for convening a council about upholding their long-held and sacred traditions, after she already had the opportunity to escape with Jorah and Daario without further bloodshed. She's not just misguided either. She's ignored sane and sensible counsel from her advisors at every turn, and wonders while looking through narcissistic stained glasses why bad things keep happening and aren't going her way. She's mad. She always has been. While I have no doubt she was taught through her entire youth that Targaryens are superior and believed she'd wed her brother before she was sold off to Khal Drogo, it's hardly excusable for what she's become. While Daenerys talks about breaking the wheel, she refuses to end the cycle. She's committed greater horrors than have happened to her, and when she doesn't get her way, she becomes a sour child as if there aren't consequences to her actions and casualties in war. Viewers and readers alike, myself included, should have seen it coming from the very beginning. The first one, be it Season 1 of A Game of Thrones or the first book, A Game of Thrones, in a Song of Ice and Fire series, it's been spelled out for us. While we may be upset about the rushed storytelling and lack of actual on-screen character development in the show, we still shouldn't be surprised at the final result. And to those who named their child Daenerys or Khaleesi because you saw this person as a hero, I can't feel too sorry for you. If you named your daughter that because you like a little badass who isn't afraid to let their nutty side fly with a little fire and blood sometimes, then I'm genuinely happy for you, because it is you, the latter, who chose wisely. Guys, thanks for tuning in. This is James signing out of the DKOT channel. Please don't forget to give this video a like, tell us what you think in the comments, and subscribe for more awesome content. We shall see you next time.